Okay, very good evening to everyone. Welcome to Network Ethics. So today is the day two for our demo day two for our 5in1 Firewall Combo Mastery Training Program. Okay, so in this Mastery Training Program, so we have covered these 5 firewall products. So those who already attend our live demo, yesterday's demo session, where where we that session in that session we were discuss about the course curriculum and what are the product you are going to learn in this 5in1 firewall compo, right? So all those stuffs we were discussed. So today, as I mentioned in yesterday's session, today we are going to perform some initial lab, so fundamental lab in with the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so since this batch is going to start Palo Alto firewall first. Okay, so Palo Alto from the scratch fundamental basics to advanced level PCNSA to PCNSE, right? So we are going to cover in Palo Alto. Okay, guys. So regarding the course curriculum, I'll share with you guys if those who are all newly joined today's demo. Okay, so the course curriculum and our previous demo session recorded video, I'll share with you for your reference. Please go through that recorded video. Okay, so let's head into the our today's demo session. So we are going to perform the lab and initial configuration with the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so today you guys are going to learn if you are getting a fresh Palo Alto firewall, if you're getting a fresh Palo Alto firewall, and very first time how to access your Palo Alto firewall management consoles and what are all the ways you are going to access the console through CLI by using CLI console and GUI console, and how to enable the CLI consoles with uh, through the SSH protocol and through the telnet protocol, and how to access the GUI console through web browser HTTP services and HTTPS services, right? So how to enable that management services on your Palo Alto firewall, and what is the default functionality of management interface of your FortiGate, sorry, your Palo Alto firewall. All the stuffs we are going to learn today, guys. Okay, so I'm going to give you the introduction or walkthrough, just like walkthrough about your Palo Alto consoles, CLI console and GUI console. Both we are going to I'm going to give you the introduction. Okay, so how it will look like. So it's along with the initial configuration, and I'm going to give you the console information where to what are the features we have in a GUI console and what are the features we have in a CLI, how to access the CLI, right? Everything I'll let you know, guys. Okay, so fine, let's start. So in our lab purpose, we are using a virtual lab. In this virtual lab, we are using a tool called EVNG. So I'm using a PNet lab. Okay, so for you guys, I'm going to give you the EVNG tool. Okay, so more or like similar. Mm, So in this EVNG tool, we are going to use, it's a virtual emulator. It's similar those who already completed your fundamental courses like CCNA level or CCNP routing switching. So I hope you are aware about GNS3 and Cisco packet tracer. Similarly, EVNG is the tool. It's an emulator which is most sufficient and most user friendly tool. Okay, so where you can do hands on with most of the network and network security products. So it will support a number of vendor products. So Cisco, Palo Alto, FortiGate, Checkpoint, all the vendor products, networking related products and network security related products, all the products, 90% of the vendor product will support by this EVNG. So we have a separate session how to what is EVNG tool, how to install that EVNG tool, how to upload the image file, everything I'll share with in a live session. I'll teach you so that you can, if you want to create your own lab setup for your hands-on purpose, and that knowledge will help you to create your own lab setup, virtual lab setup for the hands-on purpose. Okay, and we do provide the lab access. So if you're not having a proper hardware resources, or if you're not will if you want to access our lab setup, then you can book your slot and you can access your lab, guys. Okay, so both virtual lab setup will teach you how to create your own virtual lab setup, and we are also having a virtual lab setup only, so that lab setup you can access, okay, through remote access. You can able to access our lab, so that we will provide. Okay, so let's head into the today's topic, that is initial configuration, or when you're getting a fresh Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so actually this is a sample image, so which is a Palo Alto firewall 220 model. It's a basic model 200 series, Palo Alto 200 series. Okay, so this hardware look like. So, okay, so the similarly, it's an entry level hardware, so you can see the minimum level of ports. Okay, and it's based on the hardware specification, it can able to handle the maximum. I mean, its throughput will be higher. Okay, so this device is suitable for the home based or small office branch offices, right? So small branch office environment, this firewall is sufficient to secure your production network, guys. Okay, so if you want to go for if you want to protect your enterprise network, right? So data center or ISP kind of your architecture, so you can use higher end of Palo Alto firewall like 5000 series, 7000 series firewalls. Okay, so we will discuss in a live session what are all the hardware models we have, and each model data set we will discuss what is the specification of each firewalls, what is the maximum throughput of each firewalls, everything we'll discuss. Okay, so in our today's scenario, it's about initial configuration. When you're getting a fresh Palo Alto firewall, you're working somewhere, so your team members ask you to configure your Palo Alto firewall very first time before deploying that Palo Alto firewall into the live production network. So what are all the activities you are going to do? So like enabling the interfaces, creating the policy, right, and register your product into your Palo Alto firewall, Palo Alto tag customer tag account, and right, uploading the licenses. A lot of stuffs we have to do before deploy this product in a live production network, right? For that and all, first we have to access the console, right? So the console, you can access your Palo Alto console. PA means Palo Alto, guys. Okay, so you can access your Palo Alto console by using dedicated console port. Okay, so how we'll access your Cisco router and switches, right? So the older model of router and switches, the consoles, by using rollover cable, right? So for that you have to use your rollover cable and your serial port. You have one end you will have a serial port, one end you will have a Ethernet port, right? So you can connect with a rollover cable with a console. That cable is called a console cable. Okay, so you can connect, and then you by using your uh, terminal applications like Teraterm or Putty, you can use the Putty also to access the terminal application, right? So any of the terminal application you can use to access your console port by using COM port communication port, serial port. Okay, so that is called actual console cable, guys. Okay, so the ancient type of console cable. Now console ports are coming out like USB port. You can see console here also we have one console port, so that is USB console. Okay, USB console, guys. So the console cable nowadays it is comes and like, sorry, this is USB console, USB port, and this is mini console USB. rollover USB console, guys. So let me show you that console cable. So you have to use that cable. Okay, so this is that. Okay, sorry, this is USB type of console cable. You can connect through, let me go to your here. By USB port, you can connect this USB port, and you can connect your RJ45 cable. One end, another end is the RJ45 cable that you can connect with your management PC. Let- Okay, so just let me draw this. So you can connect your management PC from that PC by using the terminal applications. You can access the CLI console of your Palo Alto firewall straightly without calling your management IP and all. These are all the this type of access are the um, So this is an ancient type of access you can say. Nowadays, almost all the vendor products coming with a management port, dedicated management port. You no need of most of the scenario. You no need any console cable, ancient type of console access. You no need. So you can directly connect with your management PC with your dedicated management port, which is a Ethernet port. So Ethernet to Ethernet, Ethernet cable you can use to access the console, and that consoles are you can also access that console through HTTPS or dedicated applications like in ASA we have a ASDM application to access the GUI console of ASA, right? Dedicated applications you can access, and then or you can also access your CLI console by using any through SSH console, SSH protocol, or Telnet protocol, you can use to access the CLI console, and web console, GUI console, you can access use HTTP or HTTPS. You can use for the GUI console access, guys. Okay, so these interfaces, we nowadays devices are not only Palo Alto, right? Nowadays devices are almost coming with a dedicated management Ethernet port, so you no need to have a rollover cable and all, right? So you can directly connect your management PC where, right? So you need a this device which can access the console, right? So for the management purpose, so after access the Palo Alto firewall on this management PC via CLI or GUI, right? So you can start to configure your firewall, like you can start to configure your data interfaces, and you can start to configure to any patch update if you want to do it, or if you want to upgrade your PAN operating system, or if you want to if you want to register your Palo Alto firewall into the Palo Alto tag, and if you want to upgrade the licenses, so everything you can do it. And after that you can deploy properly in your Palo Alto data interfaces into the live production network, and you can connect your physical LAN network DMZ, where you have a server segment and WAN network. Like that you can, based on your infrastructure, you can utilize these data these are all these 8 ports in this model. We have 8 dedicated data ports. Okay, so these ports are data traffic, so you can use to this the interfaces you can use for the data traffic, so where you can connect your LAN WAN DMZ networks, right? And you can start to create a rule to allow after that you can start to create the rule to allow or deny some services and all, everything you can able to do it. Okay, and dedicated management port we have, and console port we have, guys. Okay, so this is the front end view of your Palo Alto PA220 model. Okay, so it's a basic fun. I mean, it's a entry level hardware, guys. Okay, similarly, let me show. Sorry, here the same thing, right? So this is data port, and number one, it's denote your data port. Number two, it's denote your management plane, management ports. So and then you have a dedicated console port with a rollover option, and you dedicated console cable console port for the USB rollover. Okay, and you have a dedicated ESP. You can use your ESP also to access the console, and right. So sorry guys. Okay, so when you're accessing a very first time, now let's say we are having on Palo Alto firewall. So this is the Palo Alto firewall. Okay, it's a very first time I have connected. I'll tell you how to provide the connectivity on this tool, everything. Okay, in upcoming session. So as of now, this is our topology. I just connect my I'm not deploying as of now. I'm not deploying my entire infrastructure. I just given a topology, draw the logical topology, and just switch on my Palo Alto firewall. It's a first Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so it's a virtual machine, VM firewall machine I'm using for here. Okay, so in case if you're accessing your Palo Alto firewall, it's a hardware firewall, dedicated hardware firewall, right? So it's a dedicated hardware firewall. It's have a dedicated management port. So what you are going to do, simply you are going to connect your management PC and your interface of your Palo Alto firewall through Ethernet. You're going to connect, and you can directly, you no need to do anything. Simply you can call your Palo Alto firewall management interface IP address, and you can access your Palo Alto firewall CLI console, either CLI mode or GUI mode. Okay, so CLI, you can use you can get command line interface. Okay, and if you're using a GUI, you have a graphical user interface. So you can just, you are going to click and drag everything. You are going to do it here. And when you're using a CLI mode, you have to give all the commands, whatever the configuration you are going to do, everything. It's command through commands you are going to configure, and this is just click and drag, right? CLI, right? So so any of the console type you can select. Those, as I previously mentioned, that CLI console can be accessible by the help of two protocols, so SSH and Telnet, right? And then GUI console can access by the help of two protocols, HTTP and HTTPS. Okay, so so as an administrator, you are going to decide whether you're going to access the GUI console or CLI console based on your familiarity. You are going to choose the console access, and you are going to configure everything else. Okay. So now to access the console, you need to call the IP address by connecting the telnet. If you're accessing SSH by using SSH, you need to install one SSH application. You need to initiate the traffic through SSH, and for that you need to install one SSH application like called PuTTY, which is supporting the SSH protocol, telnet protocol, secure CRT, right? Any any application like that you have to install in your management PC, and from that application you are going to call the CLI console, tell either SSH or telnet. Okay, so if you are going to access the GUI and you need a browser, the management PC need to be installed with a browser. The browser only will support HTTP and HTTPS services, right? So you need a browser on this management PC, and then you need to know the management IP address, and you need to, after know that your management IP address, and you need to assign the same IP address on your management PC, same network. Management network should be same. Your management PC IP address and management port of your Palo Alto firewall should be same network. Then only they can able to communicate each other, right? Because you're directly connecting your Palo Alto. It's very first time you're accessing, and you're not yet deploy the firewall into the real-time production network, right? You're directly accessing the console of your Palo Alto firewall from your laptop or desktop, anything, right? So that laptop or desktop and your Palo Alto firewall management port should be connected with the same network. Then only they can able to communicate each other. So for that purpose, you need to know what is the management interface IP. Okay, so if you're running without, if you're configure your hardware firewall, that is very easy. You can identify your it that this hardware is configured, this management port It's pre-configured, coming with a pre-configured IP address. So IP is your management interface IP. Okay, management interface IP. It's 192.168.1.1/24 network, guys. Okay, so since if you want to know that IP address, you can just check your behind the hardware. Okay, it will mention what is the administrator management interface IP, and then while accessing the console through CLI or GUI console, and it's need to authenticate. Your Palo Alto will ask the credential, username and password. So default credential username is admin, password is admin. Okay, default credential of your Palo Alto firewall is username is admin, password is admin, guys. Okay, so and default management interface IP, it is applicable only for the hardware. So it's a default one, any model. It might be any model. So 192.168.1.1/24 network. So we are aware now. We are aware what is the default. I mean, what is the IP of your management network and management interface of your Palo Alto firewall, and also we know what is the network of your management interface. So what you have to do while connecting your management interface with your management PC, you have to assign the same IP address from this same network IP in this range. So your laptop or desktop should connect with your management port of your Palo Alto firewall, and your management PC should assign the IP address from this range 192.168.1.0/24 network, any IP apart 1.1. Okay, so any other IP address you can assign, and then you can after that you have to check the reachability whether we have a reachable we have a to access the console. First we I need to make sure whether we have a reachability between my I mean my management PC to my management port of Palo Alto firewall. So for that purpose, I'm going to check the ping ICMP traffic I'm going to initiate, right? So so in your Palo Alto firewall management interface, by default, okay, by default, the ping for reachability purpose, network security purpose, for reachability checking purpose, we are going to use the ICMP traffic. So ping, right? So your dedicated management interface, whether it is a hardware firewall and whether it is a VM firewall, right? This management port dedicated, we have a dedicated management port. That dedicated management port is enabled with ping services management. It will accept the management services for ping protocol, SSH protocol, HTTPS by default. Only these three protocols or these three services only will accept on your management interface very first time, guys. Okay, so it's default one. This is a default one. So if you are trying to access the console after checking the reachability by pinging your management IP of your in Palo Alto firewall management interface IP, and you obviously the by default ping is up acceptable, so it will you will get the reply. Then now if you are try to access the console of GUI console by HTTP protocol or Telnet protocols, either CLI and GUI, right? GUI or for CLI. So very first time, this interface, it's only accept ping by default, ping SSH HTTP, yes, not HTTP and Telnet. So these two protocols are by default not acceptable by your management interface. So if you are trying to take a console by using these protocols, you will not be allowed. Your firewall will not respond to your traffic, guys. Okay. So in that case, you don't think that we don't have reachability or we are having some issue with configuration. So like that our device. So this is the default functionality of your Palo Alto firewall. So first you have to access either CL, you can access either CLI or GUI. by using the secure protocols. So SSH and then HTTPS secure protocol only. The plain text communication protocols, non-secure protocols will not be acceptable for the administrative purpose when you are trying to access your Palo Alto firewall admin management interface very first time. So you have to manually enable these services until unless these services are not acceptable. Clear, guys? So this is for this credential. Okay, only the IP, rest of the information, username, user credential, and then management services, everything is same for the VM firewall and hardware based firewall, right? Everything is same. Only when if you have chances to work with a VM firewall don't have a dedicated management interface IP. It has dedicated management interface, but it doesn't have a preserved IP address. Okay, default IP address, because that is configured as a DHCP client. Most of the scenario, virtual firewalls will be deployed in a virtual environment, right? So cloud like so in that scenario, the cloud you they will provide the IP address. So by default, they have configured as a DHCP, sorry, client. These management interface configured as a DHCP client when it is a VM firewall. Okay. So now you can see my Palo Alto firewall I'm using for testing purpose here, lab education purpose. We are using a VM firewall here, right? And that VM firewall, since it's a VM firewall, as I mentioned, it doesn't have any dedicated IP address because the reason it is configured as a DHCP client. So I got a IP address from my DHCP server. Okay. Shiv, you can just ping me in my WhatsApp. Okay. This batch we are going to start with the Palo Alto, not Cisco AS or FTD. So just ping me. I'll let you know when we are going to start AS and FTD firewall. Okay. Separately. Okay. So this is my since this is a VM firewall, by default it is configured as a DHCP client so that I have an IP. I got IP address because I'm running a DHCP services in my environment. So I got IP address from my DHCP server. Okay. So now I can access the console. If you have IP address, if you already have a reachability between your Palo Alto firewall and then your management PC. So now go to your console. Okay, so this is my Palo Alto firewall, and this PC, this is my local PC, which I'm using right now for the teaching purpose, right? So my main PC, okay, so which is also connected with the same network, can that is 192.168.253. What is the IP address? 201 is my management interface IP. 253.201 is my management interface IP address of my Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so now let me check what is the my local PC IP address. Okay, which I'm using a teaching purpose right now. So you can see that is also having a same network IP address 192.168.253.0/24 network. Okay, 107, which is same network, right? So I'm going to check. This is my management PC. As of now, I'm using my local main PC, which I'm using for teaching purpose right now. That PC, I'm connecting with my management PC. I'm using that PC as my management PC. Okay, so I should check the reachability, whether I have a reachability on from my management PC to my Palo Alto firewall. Just ping 192.168.253. Dot what is the IP address of my Palo Alto firewall management interface, which is that is configured as a DHCP client, right? So that is 192.168.253.201, right? So 201, 201, and I'm going to check the reachability, right? By using ping protocol. See, I'm having a reachability, guys. So if I'm having a reachability, I'm able to access the console by using my Palo Alto firewall, CLI and GUI consoles from my management PC. So in my management PC, I do have one I have a putty application which support the telnet and SSH console for the CLI, and also I have a browser which support the GUI console has through HTTP or HTTPS. I have a reachability, right? So I'm going to access my Palo Alto firewall, CLI console, GUI console and CLI console by using HTTP protocol and telnet protocol. Okay, for CLI. So let me try HTTP dot 190.168.253.201. That is our management interface IP of your Palo Alto firewall, right? Yes. So now try to access the console. See, now your Palo Alto firewall is not responding the console, right? The same way, it's still, I'm not getting a reply. Okay, because I'm using HTTP protocol. So HTTP is your in my management interface by default HTTP protocol are not enabled, so that management interface is not support the not accept this traffic which is comes under the HTTP protocol. So if you use HTTPS to access the GUI console, and you can see I got the reply now from my Palo Alto firewall. Go to advanced and proceed, and you can able to access your Palo Alto firewall GUI console, guys. The same way now I am trying to access my Palo Alto firewall CLI console, okay, by using PuTTY application which support the telnet. So select others, and protocol is telnet protocol. I am going to access the CLI, okay, and just a minute. Okay, so now I'm trying to access telnet. Through telnet protocol. I'm going to access my Palo Alto firewall, the same IP address I'm going to use because that is my management interface, right? So one IP 192.168.253.201, right? Let me try to access now, and you can see you'll not be allowed because your Palo Alto firewall will not allow your CLI console by using HTTP, sorry, by using Telnet protocol because it's a non-secure protocol. HTTP and Telnet are it's a plain text communication, right? So it's not a secure protocol. So it should your Palo Alto firewall it shouldn't accept. The reason, let me duplicate the session. Sorry, instead of duplicate, new initiate the new session. Just a minute. This is our your previous session. Okay, and now only I'm going to initiate new session. Okay, this time going to create session. This time I'm going to choose SSS protocol, the same IP address 192.168.253.201, and see that I'm connection type I choose an SSH. Okay, port number 22. Just click OK. Now you can see I'm get some reply. I'm going to accept, and now you can see this is your Palo Alto firewall CLI console, guys. So what is the credential, default credential? So now it is asking you to log in with your Palo Alto CLI console. So it is asking the credential. What is the credential, guys? Very first time you guys are asking. You are going to access the protocol, your console, right? So what is the default credential? What is the console, guys? So what is the default credential? Username is admin. I mentioned it, right? Username is admin. Password is password also admin. Try to log in. Now you can see it is asking you to change your password now. Okay, so as of now, sorry, yes. So it is asking you to change your password. So username is, sorry, password is admin, right? So now it is asking me to provide the new password. So what you should match you should provide minimum 8 letters, and you should uh, you should fulfill the password. Uh, yes, you should. I mean, you should provide one at least one uppercase and one numerical uh, letter you have to provide. So you should meet the password requirements. Okay, so you should not able to see what you are typing, right? So now I'm going to type new password, capital P at the rate SSWRD is my password, and capital P the rate SSWRD is my new password. So passwords are successfully changed, but still your firewall says still your account is using default credential. Okay, and so it is asking, it's a default warning message you are getting it. Actually we have changed the password. Okay, so sometimes the very first time it will not apply whatever the password you have changed. So it will ask you to change the password from GUI as well. So to apply the changes sometimes. Okay, so if you're not committed any changes. Okay, so now this is your CLI console, guys. Okay, this is your CLI console of your Palo Alto firewall, right? So and this one is your GUI consoles admin. And what is the password? So I have changed the password. Let me try with a changed password. So whether it is updated or not. Yes, almost it's updated. So now I'm getting a Palo Alto firewall CL GUI console, guys. Okay, so this is my GUI console of my Palo Alto firewall, right? So I told you, right? So management interface will support only these three services. I'll accept only ping, SSH until sorry, SSH and HTTPS. These three services only it will be accept, right? So now go to verify that. Go to here. I mean, this is your data interface. So if you want to, I need to check my management interface details, right? I have an IP address on my management interface, but here if you go to network and interface, it will show you only the 8 ports, which just a minute, which is your data ports. It is showing only your data ports, this 8 port information only it will showing. But here it is showing we are having a dedicated management port, right? So it is not showing this port I are in this interface configuration, interface detail. So you have to check this interface information under device interface, setup interfaces, and you can see management, and go inside this management interface, and you can see that by default it is configured as a DHCP client. And you can see for administrative and management service it will accept only HTTPS and SSH, and for network service it will accept only ping services. And if you look at that HTTP and telnet, right, these services are not enabled, so that when you try to access the console through HTTP and telnet, it will not allow you to access the console, guys. Okay, so by default we are not enable these things, right? So by default it is by default the factory settings, I mean your default settings of your Palo Alto, fresh Palo Alto, it is support, it will enable only with the HTTPS and SSH and ping services. So for that's the reason we are not able to access the console through telnet and HTTPS protocol, guys. Okay, so now the same details I'm going to, this is, I'll come back later with about this see GUI consoles, what is dashboard, what are all the information, where to, what are the things we are going to configure in each menu, what are the things we have inside the each menu, right? That and all I'll tell you later. As of now, I want to start with the console introduction with a CLI console type. Okay, so go to CLI console. Okay, this is my Palo Alto CLI console. I'm now I'm in a Palo Alto CLI console through SSH console, SSH protocol. I have accessed this console because only secure protocol SSH only will allow to access the console of your Palo Alto firewall through CLI. Not telnet is not allowed because telnet is disabled, right? So now I want to enable that interfaces, and as well as I want to assign, this is a DHCP client, right? I want to assign the IP address with a static IP address on this my Palo Alto firewall management interface. Okay, so if you are not having a I'm going to show you how to access your management interface through CLI, and how to configure your management interface through CLI, and then how to enable administrative services and network services, administrative and management services and network services of your management interface through CLI console. That I am going to tell you now. Okay, and then we'll see how to modify it in your GUI as well. The GUI, it is very simple. It's just click and drag only. So I want to show you through check all those details through CLI commands by using CLI commands. Okay, so now this is a CLI console. Very first time when you're accessing, right? So it will ask you to change the password. After change the password, you are enter into your CLI console, your Palo Alto CLI. Okay, Palo Alto CLI console have two mode: operational mode, configuration mode. Okay, this symbol denotes this symbol denotes you are in a operational mode. If you notice this symbol, right, you are in a operational mode. So in operational mode, it's similar to Cisco CLI. In Cisco CLI, you will be in a privilege mode, and then interface configuration mode, global configuration mode, right? So similarly, you have different type of modes, right? Interface configuration mode, right? The same way, Palo Alto CLI have two type of modes. So one is operational mode, and then another one is configuration mode. Okay, and when this symbol denotes you are in a operation mode. So if you are in a operation mode, you can just verify the firewall configuration. You can just execute the show commands, and you can execute the test commands. So like trace route ping and test the policies, right? Check the policy whether you have such a policy or not, right? Test the objects, right? So test commands and show commands. Okay, so you can just verify, and then sorry, you verify and read the firewall configurations. You cannot configure, you can't able to configure in this mode. Operational mode will allow you to check the show commands and test commands. So you can just check the reachability, and whatever the configuration you did, so that configuration you can just read it in your firewall configuration. Okay, you will not able to write something on your firewall configuration. You'll not able to configure anything on your Palo Alto firewall when you are in a operational mode. So when you are in a configuration mode, then only you can able to write, you can configure anything configuration, you can do it. Okay, configure on your firewall, so you can read, you have a full access, read and write You can change your firewall configuration, you can modify your firewall configuration, right? So when you're in a configuration mode, when you're in a operational mode, you can able to do only show execute you can execute only show and test commands. So only read option only you have it, guys. Okay, so now I want to check. Previously we have, since we connected with the your Palo Alto firewall with the DHCP client, so your Palo Alto firewall management interface. So we know the IP address of your management interface. So we directly access the console through GUI console, right? So now when you're accessing the very first time when you're accessing your Palo Alto firewall CLA console, and if you want to know what is the IP address of your management interface, and we are in a operational mode. So if you want to verify what is the IP address of your management interface, then what we are going to do, we are going to just execute the read. I mean, we are going to read some configurations on your Palo Alto firewall. We are going to read, right? We are not. I don't want to write something. I mean, I don't want to write on my management interface right now. I just want to check what is my management interface IP address. So I'm going to read, right? So if you are going to read something on your firewall configuration, you have to enter into the operational mode. Already I'm in operational mode only, right? So here I can use this command. So the command which you to verify your management interface detail, you have to use this command, show interface management. You can verify your Palo Alto firewall management interface IP address by using two different commands. The first command, show interface management, is the command to verify your management interface configurations. And now you can see link status is interface is up, right? Auto, and you can see IP address 192.168.253.201, and you can able to see that default gateway, that is 192.168.253.69, and then right. So your management interface IP you saw, but it mention it doesn't, I mean, it's not mentioned anywhere else. It's in a it's configured with the DHCP server. Okay, so it just mentioned what is the IP address of your management interface, and what is the network, and right, and what is the status of your interface link status is enabled. Okay, and auto full duplex speed, it's auto mode, right? So it's enabled. So these things only you can able to see. But I want to know what is the IP address assignment mode. What is the IP assignment mode, right? So in that case, you can also uh, verify the same interface IP address, management interface IP address, in another command, that is so system info is the command to verify your management interface IP address. Along with, you are going to verify your entire FortiGate firewall, sorry, your Palo Alto firewall information, like what is the operating system it has, and what is the version, I mean, what is the host name, right? So some information about your firewall you are going to get. Okay, so here you can see, so what is the IP address of your management interface, and what is the subnet mask, what is the gateway, and along with that, IP assignment mode. It's clearly says that it's a DHCP client. Okay, and then rest of the information, it's talk about your firewall details. What is the if it is a hardware firewall, it will show you what is the hardware firewall, and it's a hardware model, if what is the model, and what is the serial number of the devices, and what is the I mean, how many of the CPU you have, right? So all those details, what is the operating system version, right? Everything it will show you about your firewall. What is the version of the each and every UTM features, like URL filter, file blocking, right? All those information you will get about your firewall along with your management interface details. Okay, so you can see on this is my management interface IP and subnet mask. gateway, and IP assignment mode is DHCP. Okay, so now I don't want to get, I want to assign the static IP address on my management interface. So I don't want to go with a DHCP client. So how to assign the IP address on your management interface? So this time I'm going to modify my existing configuration. I'm in my management interface. So I have to select my management interface, and I have to change the existing configuration. I'm going to modify the IP address from DHCP client to static IP. I need to change, and then I have to assign the IP address. So what I'm doing here, I'm write something, I'm modifying something. So right now I'm in operation mode. So operation mode will not support, you will not able to configure anything on your operational mode. So you have, if you want to do some configuration changes, then you have to go on to your, from operation mode to configuration mode you have to go, guys. Okay, so right now I'm in operation mode. I want to enter into the configuration mode. So if you want to enter into the configuration mode, you have to use the keyword called configure and hit enter. And now you can have options to edit. Okay, so, and you can able to see that hash symbol. So hash symbol denotes you are in a configuration mode. So you have a privilege to write something on your firewall. So configuration changes, anything existing, modified, existing changes you can modify, or new change, new update you can, new configuration you can update it. Okay. So now I'm right now in a operational mode, right? So in a Cisco devices, from global configuration mode to, or interface right, in Cisco you have, you are in a interface configuration mode or global configuration mode, interface mode, let's say interface mode, and you want to execute the privileges mode commands, right? So in that case, how you can execute that command, guys? Right now I'm in a advanced mode, right? I'm having a read write privileges. I want to execute the command which is my previous mode privileges, right? So read only privileges. Now I'm in a configuration mode. I can do some configuration changes here, but I want to verify what is my management interface right now. The same in Cisco, you interface configuration mode too. You want to verify some show commands. You want to execute the show commands from interface mode. Then how you will execute that command, guys? User mode commands and privileges mode commands can be executable on your interface mode in Cisco devices. Can you able to execute, guys? Yes, you can. You will use, before the command you'll use a do keyword, do show IP interface, and do show IP route, right? Like that, the previous mode commands you can execute on advanced mode, right? So by using the existing command, and before that existing command, I mean the command, you are going to use the keyword called do to run your previous mode command in your advanced level of mode, right? So I mean in your interface mode in a Cisco, the same way in Palo Alto. So operation mode command, show and test commands are operational mode commands, right? Show and test, right? So this command can be executable on your configuration mode. The whatever the existing command you are going to use, the same command you can use, but here in front of that command you have to use the keyword called run show system info, run so interface management. So these commands you can use to verify your operational mode commands. Okay, so let me try to execute the operational mode commands without giving a run keyword. So right, interface, see, it's not okay. Let me get system. I'm not getting the hint. So system info is the command to verify your management interface. You can see invalid syntax. The same command I can use, I can execute by using before adding the run keyword. So system info, now I'm able to get the reply for that command. So this, because that command is a operational mode command. Operational mode command can be executable on your configuration mode by using a run keyword before the commands. Okay, s- clear? So now I have verified what is my management interface IP address. So now I'm going to configure the IP address on my management interface. So to configure my IP address, my management interface, I need to select my management interface, right? So to configure something on your device, you have to use the keyword called set and what you are going to set. So I'm going to configure my management interface, right? So whatever the configuration you are doing it related to management interface, you have to use set management activities. You have to use device config means I'm doing a configuration on my management plane. Okay, so your Palo Alto firewall have a two different planes. So data plane, which is data interfaces are separately maintained, and management plane, okay, management interface are separately maintained by your Palo Alto firewall. Okay, the management plane have a dedicated hardware units, and then data plane have a dedicated hardware units. So as of now, your guys are not able to understand what is data plane unit, what is management plane unit. So when you're learning a SP3 architecture of your Palo Alto firewall, you can able to understand what is data plane, what is management plane. Okay, so as of now, just leave it. And so whatever the interface level management configuration you want to do it, right? So that is your configuring in your management plane. So to select your management plane, you have to use the keyword called set device config system. System denotes you are selecting your management interface. Okay, set device config. I'm going to device wise, I'm doing some configuration on my management plane. Okay, set device config system. And now what in your management plane, what you are going to configure. Okay, so IP address, here you can say I just want to configure IP address, right? So I have selected set device config system. I have selected my management interface. This is the command to select your management interface. Okay, set device config system. And on your management interface, what you are going to do? IP address you are going to configure, or gateway you are going to configure, right? Some other configuration time you are going to set, or you are going to update the from the Palo Alto server, whatever the activities we want to do, right? So that I'm going to configure. I'm going to configure my IP address. Set device config system. I'm going to assign the IP address. IP address. Okay. What kind of IP address? If you want to get the help, you can hit the tab button. What kind of what kind of IP address you are going to assign? So set device config system IP. In here, if you give a question mark, what kind of IP address? IPv4 or IPv6? So if you want to give assign the IPv6, then you have to choose you have to mention IPv. Then you will get a complete command IPv6. Okay, if you want to assign the IPv4, then just make it IP and hit tab bar, and you will get the IP address. Okay, so IP address, this is denotes you are going to assign the IPv4 address. Okay, and then define what is your IP. Okay, so my management network, as of now, my management network, I know what is my management network. My management network is belongs to one 192.168.253.0/24 network. So I just want to assign 0/200 instead of 201, or I just want to assign 150 IP address on my management interface. 253.150 I'm going to assign statically. Okay, so now go to your Palo Alto GUI console. CLI console, and now assign the IP address 192.168.253.150. I'm going to assign, and then you have to define your net mask. So to provide the net mask, you have to use the command called subnet mask. To provide the subnet mask, you have to assign, you have to give the command called net mask. Net mask, then you have to define what is the subnet mask. So that is /24 255.255.255.0/24 network, right? So I mean it's a /24 network. I have mentioned 255.255.255.0, it means that is /24 network. Okay, subnet mask is /24 network. That's it. And I have assigned the configuration. Now I'm going to assign the IP address on my management interface. Now I'm going to save the changes. To save the changes in your whatever the changes you have done in your Palo Alto firewall, so you have to commit. When you commit, then only the changes will be applied in your Palo Alto firewall, guys. So to save the changes, you have to use the command called commit. And just wait, whatever the changes we have done up to now, everything will be saved. So which means the whatever the changes we have done, that changes we are applying on your running configuration of your Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so we it will take time to update the changes. So once it is completed as 100%, the changes will be updated, right? So what is the IP we have changed? This IP is statically we have configured, that is 150, right? So now the changes are successfully saved. The changes will be updated on your Palo Alto firewall management interface, guys. Right? The whatever the changes we have done, that need to update it, right? So we have to verify whether it is updated or not. Okay. So will it update? Let me check how to verify that. So right now I'm in running configuration mode. So I am going to use the operational mode command to verify my management interface IP address. So I'm going to use the run keyword before the command. Now I'm going to use the command which I want to verify my management interface, right? So that command I have to use. So run system info or so interface interface management. What is the IP? We just say change that IP address to 150, right? But still it is showing 201. What is the reason, guys? Any idea? The changes are not saved. Actually, the changes are saved, but it's not reflected. What is the reason, guys? Any idea? Okay, let me check one other mode of interface, management interface IP, another by using another command. Run so system info is the command, and now you can clearly get to know what is the reason. Still IP assignment method, it's in a DHCP. So if you're assigning the IP address in a DHCP client mode, right? So we even though if you are without changing this mode DHCP to static, you will not able whatever the IP you have applied, that IP will not be updated because still the IP assignment mode is in a DHCP client. So in normal Windows machine and in your client machine, if you are assigning the IP address as a DHCP client, right? So without until unless you are going to manually change that IP assignment mode from DHCP to static, first you will assign the mode from DHCP to static, then only you will assign the IP address, static IP address, right? Then only it will apply properly. The same way here also, first you have to change the mode, IP assignment mode, right? So then after that only you can whatever the IP you have applied, that IP will be updated in your Palo Alto management interface, guys. So now first we need to change that mode. So for that you have to use the command set device config system. So I am doing some configuration changes on my management interface, and then type. Type denotes your IP assignment mode. So DHCP client or static method you are going to. Already it is configured as a DHCP client, so I'm going to change it as a static method and get and now hit enter and save the changes by using commit keyword, commit, and now the changes will be applied. So now we are not yet assigned the IP address. Then how will we? It will be update. Okay, the previous command will be already it's saved, so it will be automatically updated, guys. As soon as you have changed the IP assignment mode from static to DHCP to static, right? The previous IP we have assigned static, and through static method we have assigned some IP address on your management interface, right? So that already saved, so that IP will be reflected in your management interface. Okay, it's still it is committing. Once this commit is successfully completed and you can verify your management interface. Okay. Okay, it's already updated, right? So because now we are accessing the console through 201 IP as a destination IP, your management IP as a 201, and the changes are updated. So your connection is refused now. It is not in an active state. Your SSL connection is not in active state. Okay, so now we have to reconnect, or you can also access your Paloalto firewall CLI console, right? So just refresh here GUI console and you will not get the reply because IP is changed. So now the same HTTP, see, it is refused. The network connection is refused because the IP is changed. So destination IP is changed. So now go to your GUI console of your Paloalto firewall, and use instead of 201, 253.150, change to 150. Now you can see I'm getting a reply now for the management IP 150. Go to advanced and save, and you can see I'm able to access the Palo Alto firewall's GUI console by calling the you whatever the IP you have changed from DHCP mode to static mode, and we have assigned the static IP 253.150. The same way now I'm going to take a SSH console, new session, and go to session. It's SSH. What is your management IP? That is 192.168.253.150 now. Previously it was 201. Now it is 153. Well, sorry, 150, right? So now you can see, yes, accept. And now you can see we are able to log in your Palo Alto firewall. Username is admin. Password is whatever the password you have changed password. Now you can see I'm accessing your Palo Alto firewall CLI console by using SSH protocol and by calling my management IP as whatever the IP I have changed, right? So this is how you are going to change your IP address on your management interface, guys. Okay, so while changing your IP address on your management interface, so you have to set the changes on your, you have to go inside your management interface by the help of the command set device config system. You're entering, which means I'm doing some configuration changes by system level, which means my firewall management plane, management interface. Okay, and then system, what you are going to do, so device config system IP address I'm going to assign an IP address, what IPv4 address, so IP address is the enough. I mean, if you want to assign the IPv6, then you have to define v6 here. For IPv4 you can just mention IPv4 IP address. Okay, normally IPv4 address, and what is the IP, what are the IP you want to provide, that IP you have to provide, and then net mask. Okay, and then what is the subnet mask you have to define. Okay, so these commands you have to follow. Okay, and let me show you that. Okay, so this document I'll show, I'll give you guys. Okay, you can use for your reference. So let me show that. Sorry, this is the command. Okay, so whatever I have mentioned, how to access default login credential of your CLI and GUI for your Palo Alto firewall very first time, right? And then how to access your CLI console, what is the CLI console mode, and global, I mean, your operation mode and configuration mode, and this how to access the CLI console and the GUI access I'll show you. Okay, so these and all we are going to, we already how to manage, how to change your management interface IP, and how to assign the how to enable the HTTP and telnet and HTTP services default I shown you, right? So your management interface default access everything. Okay, and how to change the, how to assign the IP address, and how to enable the services that we are going to see now. Okay, so all the documents I'll share with you for your reference. Okay, so this document will give you for a lab manual. This is a lab manual for the basic initial configuration, guys. Okay, basic lab setup, lab manual. So likewise we have a lab manual for all the all the topics we'll share with you. Okay, so up to now we saw how to assign the IP address, how to access the consoles through CLI and GUI, and how to assign the IP address, the management interface through CLI. And now just go to your CLI once again. So now I'm able to access through HTTPS and SSH protocol only, right? I'm not able to access through telnet and telnet and HTTP services, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to enable that services, administrative services in through CLI console. Okay, so for that you are going to use these commands. So let me for that we are going to do some changes on your firewall, right? So you, from operation mode to, you have to enter into the configuration mode and give the keyword called configure. Now I'm going to change, I'm going to enable and disable some services for the administrative purpose in my management interface. So now I'm going to enable telnet and I'm going to disable SSH. Okay, uh, right, through CLI command. So for that you have to enter into the interface, management interface mode, right? So now set device config. Okay, system, I'm right now I have selected my management interface. So in under system, what you are going to do, you are going to assign the IP address, or you're going to you're going to, I'm going to select some services, right? So that are all service, right? You have to select the keyword called service to enable and serve, disable some services like management services, administrative services, right? So select system service is the command. Okay, now you have to define what is the service you are going to enable or disable. Okay, so First of all, I want to verify whether what are the services are enabled first and what are the services are disabled in through CLI. Okay, so I'll come back to configuration later. First, I just want to verify. So you can go to your operational mode. You can use this command. So system service is the command to verify what are all the administrative service and is enable and disable in your management interface. You can see that HTTP is disabled, HTTPS is enabled, and Telnet is disabled, and SSH is enabled, ping is enabled, right? SNMP services are disabled. Okay, by default, these three services only enable in your Palo Alto firewall management interface, right? So yes, Mohammed, it will work. So everything, whatever I'm teaching you here, it's similar you can achieve in your real devices. Okay. So the same thing will be like it's we are accessing your Palo Alto PAN operating system. What? Okay. So similarly, only it will look like your Palo Alto real devices. Okay, when you're accessing very first time. So the same thing will be is there. So you have to whatever here we are doing, the same thing you can do it in your real devices. Okay. So now my concern, I want to enable the services uh, with a Telnet and HTTP services to access the console through CLI and GUI, and I'm going to disable existing services like SSH or HTTPS. Okay, so now, okay, so we'll use a VM machines for the hands-on purpose. Okay, I'll give you the tools and software, and you can also access our lab access virtual lab for your hands-on. Okay, so fine. So now I'm going to enable HTTP service and Telnet services, and along with that, I'm going to disable SSH services, right? Or HTTPS services. Okay. So through CLI console. So I'm going to do some changes now. So the changes can be done on which mode, guys? Right now I'm in operation mode. Operation mode, you can just execute the SOAP commands. You will not able to write something on your firewall. I'm going to enable and disable some services in my firewall management interface. So I need to enter into the operational mode. For that, you have to use the keyword called the configure to enter into the configuration mode from operation mode to configuration mode. So now I'm going to change my service. I'm going to enable and disable some services. For that, you have to use the command set device config system. Up to now, I have selected my management interface. In under system, what you are going to do? I'm going to do some changes on my services, system services. Under system service, what are the service you are going to enable, disable, right? So already HTTP is disabled. Okay, and HTTPS is enabled. Okay, okay, and ICMP is enabled, SSH is enabled, Telnet is disabled, right? So here, these many services I can able to enable or disable, right? So my concern, I just want to enable enable Telnet because that is disabled already, and and I want to enable HTTP services because that is already disabled, and I want to disable SSH services because it's already enabled, right? So now, first I'm going to enable the services. Later, how to disable that service, we'll see. Okay. So with now set device config system service, I'm going to enable HTTP, right? On Telnet, right? So to enable your Telnet services, just choose disable and Telnet. Okay. So to enable your Telnet services, I'm selected the Telnet service right now by using disable Telnet. No. What action you want to do? Action. What is your action? Just give a question mark. To disable, you have to give yes. The command says disable telnet yes, which means your telnet services is going to disable. It's already disabled. Okay. So if you want to enable telnet service, you have to say disable telnet no. No means the keyword is disable. Okay. Telnet no means I don't want to disable my telnet. I want to enable my telnet services. No means it I'm going to activate. Yes means I'm going to disable here. The reason they are using these kind of command instead of enable, saying enable, they are saying that disable, it's for the copyright purpose, so you cannot use same commands from the other vendor. So that's the reason they have just modified here and there. Okay. So to enable some services, you have to say disable no. You have to select that particular service and you have to say disable no, http disable no, telnet disable no. Okay, which means we are activating that services. If you want to disable deactivate that services, and you have to say http yes disable yes, and telnet ssh disable yes, which means I'm going to disable that services. Okay, clear? If you want to enable service, and you have to select that service, and then you have to say no to activate that service. Okay. And the same way, this time set device config system service, I'm going to enable the http services. So to enable that, you have to choose disable, and what service you are going to enable is http, and disable no is the keyword to activate that services. And just save the changes to by committing. Now after commit, you can verify the changes in your GUI itself. So admin, okay, go to device to access your management interface in a GUI console. Through GUI console, go to setup and go to interface. It's loading. Okay, and go inside your management interface, and you can see now previously telnet and http is disabled. Only https, ssh, ping, these three services only is enabled by default. And now these services also enabled. Right? It's enabled via your Paloalto firewall CLI console through SSH console. Okay, to verify that now, previous previously while executing this command, like what are the services are enabled in my Paloalto firewall management interface, it says clearly HTTP is disabled, HTTPS is enabled, Telnet is disabled, and then uh, SSH is enabled, ping is enabled, but rest of the services are, it's clearly says it is disabled, right? So now I'm going to execute the same command. I'm going to verify what are the services are enabled right now. Okay, so run, I'm going to execute the soak command. So from the configuration mode, okay, which means the operation mode command, I'm going to execute from the operation mode configuration mode. So you have to use the keyword called run before the command. So system, what is the command? Services. Okay, so system services, and you can see now except SNMP, all the services are enabled. HTTP also enabled, Telnet also enabled, SSH also enabled. Okay, so now I'm going to cross check the website, the management interface through that. Initiate the traffic. I'm going to access the Palo Alto firewall console through Telnet now. Okay, CLI console. I'm going to cross check whether that is working fine successfully or not. Right. So now go to here. Sorry, go to Putty app and initiate duplicate session and new session. This time I'm going to access my Palo Alto firewall through Telnet. selected the service telnet, port number 23, my management interface IP is 192.168.253.150. Okay. And just log in, and you can see without asking anything, you can see right now I'm able to see my Palo Alto login credential. I got the Palo Alto credential. Okay. And login page, it is asking me to log in with the Palo Alto CLI console. Username is the admin and password is whatever the password you have changed. You can see I'm able to log in with my Palo Alto, yes, CLI console through telnet. Okay. So let me just a minute. Where is this? Change setting. Okay. So this is my, the blue color screen is my I mean telnet, and green color screen is my SSH console, right? So to verify that, go to your GUI console of your Palo Alto firewall and go to dashboard in your Palo Alto firewall and logged in admins. You can see 107 through web and through CLI and through CLI. Okay. And so it's not showing what is the console. Just check your logs. CLI command. We just logged in right now. Update is there. Okay. So this is a dashboards where you're getting some system related logs. So who, the limited information you are able to get. So who are all logged in? What are all the administrator? Actually, right now I'm logged in with the same username, user account, so that you are not able to understand properly. So if you are giving a multiple two different admin user accounts, so if different administrators are logged in with a different console, you can easily identify it. So one, I'm right now I'm logged in with the same admin user account with a multiple console types. So CLI and GUI, web is GUI, and this CLI is, one is telnet, one is SSH. Okay. So now let me see that information. This administrator logged in through CLI console, the same way another admin. So the if you refresh the log, if anybody newly logged in, that logs will be appear here. Okay. So limited logs it will provide. So now we logged in, right? So now what I'm going to do through telnet, this time I'm going to disable the SSH console, SSH services. Okay. So right now telnet, I'm accessing the telnet console. Okay. So so I'm in a telnet console of my CLI console of my Palo Alto firewall through telnet services. So now I'm going to configure something in my firewall. I'm going to disable services, right? So for that you have to enter into the configuration mode, right? So use the command configure, and now set device config. What is the command to change the system services, either disable or enable, right? So you have to use the command set device config system services service. What kind of service you are going to do? So I'm going to disable now. I'm already we enable SSH telnet, HTTP and HTTPS, right? So now I'm going to disable SSH services now to access the console, right? So set device config system service, disable SSH. Yes, yes is the keyword. I'm going to disable my SSH services and commit the changes As soon as it is committed, your SSH console automatically expire. It will not allow the users to log in through SSH console because that services is disabled. Your once it is committed, your firewall will not allow users to access the console through SSH services. Only CLI console can be accessible through telnet services as of now. Okay, so committed, go to SSH console, and now okay, so come out, exit. So I already the session is already established, right? So now try to execute new session through SSH. The IP address 192.168.253.150. This time I have chosen a console type SSH. Username is sorry. Just log in, and you can see it. The connection will be refused. You will not able to get the reply. You will get the refused error. Okay, so you can see that connection is timed out because your firewall is now it is not accepting any console access through SSH services. It will accept only through telnet service new session, and instead of SSH choose other and choose that service is telnet service, right? And the same IP 192.168.253 dot what is the IP address? I mean it's a 150 of your management interface IP, right? So that's it. You can see PAVM able to log in, but still I'm not getting reply through SSH because SSH services are disabled. So just log in admin, admin, and now so system services. Okay, and you can see SSH is disabled. So that's the reason you're not able to access the console through CLI console through SSH protocol. Okay, because that is not acceptable. That services are not acceptable by your firewall. The same way, yes, HTTP is enabled, right? So let me try to access the Paloalto firewall through HTTP service as well without having just directly. I'm going to assign the IP address 192.168.253.150 and just try to log in. Here you can see I just typed HTTP, not HTTPS, right? I'm not getting if I type HTTPS first, it will provide the warning message, the certificate error, SSH certificate. We don't have a proper SSH certificate, so you will get a warning, and then you will proceed to unsafe. Then you will get a console, right? But now I'm not getting any warning because I'm not using any HTTPS services. I used plain text communication HTTP services, and I directly access the console. Okay, so so the same way, just just let me now go to here once again. Try to access the console through HTTPS. This time HTTPS I'm trying to access 192.168.253.150, and now you can see. Okay, so already it's used the proxy. I mean, it's used the cache. Okay, so sorry. Uh, it's a secure device even though HTTP. If you're calling a HTTP, so by default HTTP is not acceptable. Your firewall will even though if you are used a HTTP service, again it will route it to the HTTPS. Okay, so for that reason only we are getting HTTPS. Okay, but accessible via HTTP as well without having HTTP, just mention HTTP 192.168.253.150. Okay, see, yep, now only it is accessing through HTTP. Okay, so now I'm not getting any error, HTTPS error, and HTTPS services are not used because the service using HTTP, so it is not secure. Just try to log in, admin password. Now you can see your firewall is refused the connection because HTTP services are non-secure communication. So your since it's a firewall device, it is not trusted the non-secure. It is to access the console, it is restricted for the HTTP services. Okay, even though you are enable that services, you will get the console, but you will not your session will be terminated. So it will ask you to log in with the safest console. So through HTTPS, only you can access the console. So the HTTP service is working now, but your firewall is not allow you to log in with the plain text communication. So it is asking you to log in with through HTTPS services. So if you're again, if you go to the login, again, if you're giving the same username and password, the same error you will get because this due to security reason your firewall will not allow users to log in through GUI through HTTP services. Okay, so you can access through HTTPS. Now just type HTTPS. So both the services are enabled properly and it is working fine. Your firewall is now, I just typed HTTPS. Now my firewall will allow me to log in with a console, GUI console. Okay, because this time I'm used a secure protocol to communicate to access the GUI console of my Paloalto firewall, guys. Okay, clear. This is how you're going to enable and disable your management interface services. Okay, and go to network and set, sorry, device and setup and management interface and whatever the service you want to disable. Now I want to disable telnet because that is also an HTTP, that both the protocols are non-secure protocols. I want to disable that and I want to enable, I want to accept the admin users to log in only with a secure protocol on my management interface of Palo Alto Firewall by using HTTPS and SSH. So now I have enabled these two services through, I have disabled existing non-secure protocol services, non-secure services through GUI console. I have disabled it and now I enable SSH as well. So by using single few clicks, right? So you have to provide your management IP, the gateway. So gateway we have not set, right, while assigning the IP address in your CLI command, right? So the gateway of your management network is 192.168.253.69. So I have set right now. That's it. Just click OK. And whatever the changes you have done that you want to come save, then you have to commit. So you can see here commit button. If you click commit, then only the changes will be applied successfully in your firewall and the firewall will take action based on your changes. If you're not saved, if you're not committed, the changes will not be, it will show in your console, but the action will not be taken by your firewall. Okay, clear? Okay, guys. So rest of the information like what is dashboard, what you can able to get here, and what is monitor profile, everything I'll due to time concern, I'm not able to explain you what is this GUI console, what are the options we have. Okay, so just explore yourself, and in our live session, I'll give you the more knowledge, more information about the console access in your firewall through, I mean, in your Palo Alto firewall. Okay, so we'll do a lot of things to do. We have a lot of things to do here. Okay, so we'll do it in our live session, guys. Okay, any doubts, any doubts up to now for the regarding our today's session? Are you clear, guys? Any doubts? Okay, sorry for the long session. Actually, this today's session is 1 hour session, but I have to take 1.5 hour, more than 1.5 hour, right? So sorry for that. Okay, fine. So that's it today, guys. If you have any queries regarding your admission process or regarding your uh, course content or regarding lab access, everything, you can just contact me. So let me drop my number. 8863. This is my contact number. You can you can contact this number through WhatsApp or you can call me as well. Okay, so you can text me. I'll reply whatever you have queries. I'll give you the solution for your queries, guys. Okay, so regarding the admission process or regarding you have any doubts on this particular firewall products, that is also I'll help you guys. Okay, so